I am here with Scott Schwartz, who is better known as Flick from A Christmas Story. But as I start off all of these things, with everybody I talk with, he could do a much better job of telling a little bit about himself than I could. First off here, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in central New Jersey, and I've been an actor since March of 1977. Let's see. I love my doggie, and, she's sitting right here with me, so
Ah,
my little baby girl. No kids, divorced, what do you want to, what do you want to
oh,
know?
that's good. That's good. But how did A Christmas Story, like, how did this movie come onto your radar? What was the audition like for that?
Honestly, I probably had the easiest audition in the history of mankind. I went in and I had done The Toy, and I had done another film called Kidco, and The Toy had opened in the movie theaters, and Bob Clark, the director of Christmas Story, saw it, and he just wanted to meet me. That's really all he wanted to do. I went in, we talked, we were in New York, and he's like, listen, I hate to do this to you, but I missed lunch. You want to go downstairs and have a hot dog? So we ended up going downstairs, having a dirty water dog, mustard and kraut. Okay, fine. Came back upstairs, talked. He's like, thanks. I said, well, do you want me to read anything? He's like, nah, you can do anything. Okay. And 10 minutes later, we were up at my agent's office. She's like, what did you do? I said, well, we chit-chatted. We had a hot dog. We chit-chatted. That was the end of it. She goes, well, I guess you did it right. You got the movie already.
Well, you have been, in the industry here for 5 years, and obviously you had done, major other motion pictures, like you mentioned, The Toy and everything. But what was it like being a young actor on a movie set, not, specifically A Christmas Story here?
I mean, The Toy being my first movie, both of the stars, Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor, I knew their work. I was a movie buff. So I wasn't the typical kid, let's play around and just whatever. I didn't do that stuff. I knew it was a job. I mean, I'd done 100 commercials, voiceovers, Broadway, off-Broadway, So I knew what a job was. And I acted as an adult, not as a child. So they didn't treat me that way, And I mean, Richard Donner, Ray Stark, Ned Beatty, Wilfred Hyde White. I mean, they had decades and decades and decades of experience, and if I asked a question, they answered it. So they gave me a lot of really good advice, places to go, things to do in my head, for different roles and whatever. Richard was my comedy guru. He was my mentor, my muse, everything. But then I get off for 4 months with that, and then I do Kidco, and I'm the lead. And because I felt so good about the experience with The Toy, it really helped me shooting Kidco, because I just kind of, took the bull by the horn, as they say, even at the age I was. I mean, I was, 14 plus, but in my head, I was 25.
Yeah.
So it was another learning experience with David Niven Jr. and Frank Yablans and Ron Maxwell, the director. Christmas Story was easy. I was working 1 day a week.
Oh.
It was, okay. I had 16 lines in the script. That's all I really had that was scripted. So there was not such a thing as I had to get into this character and I had to go, into the places. No, it was easy.
There are, different experiences for different sets. Sometimes it's the most enjoyable thing you had, and sometimes it's the worst thing you ever had. From what I got a sense from some of the other folks that I spoke with, that it was a pretty enjoyable shoot and set to be on. Is that a true statement?
You talking about Christmas Story?
Yeah.
There was not anything as far as the cast and crew that was unenjoyable. We had a fun group of people that we were working with. But under the conditions that we were shooting in, it was 24 below zero when I'm out there with my tongue stuck on that pole, and we did it twice. We did it 2 different days. One day was 12 and a half hours. The other day was 11 and a half hours. The weather was the worst part of it because it limited things we could do. You know, when I was shooting the toy in Louisiana, it's 85 to 100 degrees there. You want to go to an amusement park, you want to go to the movies, you want to go here, you can do anything, you know. We had fun when we were on the set, you know, but away from that, very boring. Thank God for video games or I'd have lost my mind. You know, we were playing Frogger and Donkey Kong in this deli that was attached to the hotel, you know, and then that was all the Higbee Square Cleveland stuff. And then when we shot the school stuff, tongue the flagpole, all that, we were up in St. Catharines, Ontario at a Howard Johnson's Motor Lodge. And they had a game room, you know. And I had my Mattel television that I had plugged in, so, you know, I always had something to do. But other than that, oh, God, it would have been just horrific.
Gotcha. And so, like, you know, a lot of people have iconic moments in this movie, you know, like, show me how, you know, the piggies eat and, you know, things like that. Now, obviously, you are known for getting your tongue stuck to the pole. Can you speak to what it was like shooting that and how they ended up, you know, pulling that off with basically vacuuming you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a real pole there, but they put a piece of plastic over it, and they had painted it to make it look like an old pole, you know, and kind of rusty, although it wasn't. It was just paint. And they put a hole in it about the size of your pinky nail, just a tiny little hole with a suction tube that went into the snow, and under the snow they had put in like a little motor, kind of like a small vacuum cleaner motor, like Dirt Devil, something like that. So it was just, and that was pretty much it. I mean, you know, but I mean, again, I say it the way it was. It was brutal, man. I mean, we froze our hands, our feet. You know, the clothing was vintage clothing. So like the gloves, they were leather. They had nothing inside them, no insulation. What happens when you get leather wet or leather gets cold? It freezes.
Yeah.
You know, we had these hand warmers. There were little itty bitty hand warmers like this big, and we just shook them up, and you put them in there, and then they would tape the glove, you know. But after 40, 45 minutes, that thing runs out, you know, and you can't always get back to putting another set in there. And, you know, but I mean, other than that, I had a blast with the crew and the gang.
And what was it like being directed by Bob Clark? How was he as the leader of the ship, so to speak?
With me, great, because, again, he trusted me. My role was a funny role. He wanted me to be funny. He knew I could be funny because he had seen me be funny, you know? So, you know, I mean, I know that Peter got 95% of the direction, you know, from Bob, you know, because Bob wanted to make sure that the Ralphie character was done properly, you know? Whereas me, you know, the script says flick, sticks, tongue to pole. That's all it says. And I said to Bob, what do you want me to do here? And he goes, do what comes natural. Do whatever you want. If I don't like it, I'll tell you. I said, okay. So I did it a couple times. He goes, that's good. I like that. Give me more. Just go bigger. Go bigger. Okay. So I went bigger. He goes, no, the way you did it your time, the way you did it is better. Do it that way. Okay. I mean, literally, that was pretty much my whole direction from Bob. Because he trusted me, and what I was doing was funny, and it worked.
Hey, sometimes the best thing you can do as a director is just get out of the way. But
yeah.
But so Christmas Story wraps, you know, everybody moves on with their lives. So when do you remember this movie becoming such a hit, you know, cultural phenomenon? Because at first it was not that big. It kind of, I think, became more huge with video cassette and then eventually TBS and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, I mean, there's a whole story that goes behind it. They didn't even want to put the movie in the theaters, and then Bob Clark and Darren McGavin were getting funds together to buy the movie from MGM to give it a release. Then MGM said okay, and they put it out, and it was in 400 theaters, and it was doing good, and it went up to 800, then 1,200, and then the fourth week, all the Christmas movies were coming out. Took all the theaters. So it goes into VHS, you know, no man's land. And it became this cult thing, everybody passing around their VHS copies of Christmas Story. And it sits there for, you know, the better part of 12 plus years until Ted Turner buys it as part of the package that he bought, you know, from MGM. they decided to do the marathon. They only had $250,000 into the movie. That's what they paid for it. So they figured if they run it one time on the marathon, they're good. They've broken even, or they've made money on the film itself, for what they paid. And it did pretty good. And they said, all right, well, let's try it again. Now, they had done it with It's a Wonderful Life. Went 2 years. The second year it bombed. That was the end of that. They did it with Wizard of Oz. First year did okay. Second year, that was the end of that. Christmas Story, they did it. It worked. Second year, the ratings went up. The third year, the ratings went up. All of a sudden, it became this Christmas Eve, Christmas Day iconic. Everybody has to watch it. But it took all those years for it to happen. It's the first movie ever that I know of, that I've heard of, that there's no merchandising for 20 years. There were leg lamps that were made, but it wasn't made by Warner Brothers even. It was made by the guy who ended up owning the Christmas Story house. That's in like 97, 98. And then by 03, that's when the marketing started for action figures and toys and lunchboxes and games and all this stuff. Crazy, total crazy.
Yeah, and I visit the Christmas Story house. I mean, this year probably not with what's going on, but my wife and I, we try to visit once a year, and of course we stop by the gift shop. So, yeah,
and I'm sure the owner and the management thank you. We get 1/2 of 1/4 of 1 penny for whatever gets bought.
So you're welcome for the 2 cents that I provided.
Exactly.
What's your favorite memory from this film?
Oh God. I mean, just the fun stuff that we did, like me and Peter, we would always get back to the hotel before Bob, before the director would get back. And my room, when you came out of the elevator, you made a right, and then you kind of went down 5 or 6 rooms and a left, and that was my room. And Bob Clark's room was down the hall from mine. So we would hear the elevator, we'd open up the door and stick our heads out, me and Pete. And as soon as Bob hit the door, we'd order food for him. And back then, there was no such thing as, you knew what room people were calling from.
Yeah.
So I'd call him. I'd say, yeah, this is Bob Clark in 624. I'd like steak and mashed potatoes and, a large Coke. Oh, no problem, sir. We'll be there in 15 minutes. And somebody would come knock on his door with room service. And he'd be like, who's ordering me this? No, I didn't order the food. Oh, it's a steak? All right, I'll take it anyway. And Bob would eat everything. So Bob would eat every meal that we sent. After like 2 weeks of doing this to him, finally he said, listen, I don't know who's sending me the steak to my room, but can you change it to chicken, please? I'm getting tired of the steak here.
That's great. Now, do you have a favorite scene in the film?
Oh, Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
No question. Chinese restaurant is my favorite. It kind of goes with my my trivia question, people. What is the name of the Chinese restaurant? Because when you see the front of the thing, the sign says Bowling, Bowling.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it, it's just a neon sign and the W is out. There was a bowling alley next door, so it was Bowling and Chinese restaurant. So there really is no name. It's not called Bowling's. It's just a Chinese restaurant.
Right. As generic as humanly possible. I like it. Now, after all these years, why do you think this film is so beloved?
Because it's a family film. It's multi-generational. Grandpa, grandma, they remember these times, and then the son and the daughter, they heard about these times from their father. And then you got the kids that grandpa tells them about these times. And it's a heartwarming film. It's a good, family film. At the end of the day, though, it's a relationship movie. And if you do relationship movies right, they'll always stand the test of time. It's about the relationship between a father and a son. The son wants acceptance. The father gets him the BB gun, and so you got this whole thing of the lead up of the whole film, and the payoff is the father says, "Yeah, you're an adult now. Here's your BB gun," and it's done so well. It's it's one of those things where to form a cast the way Bob did, it just was perfect. Sometimes you see movies, you go, I really don't see that person playing that role or this or that. And we didn't have that, But it took Bob, I think he said to me, almost a year to cast the role of Ralphie and all the kids. Because he wanted very natural kids. He wanted kids that were just kids, Yeah. And everybody was programmed, hi, my name is, and my agent is, and blah, blah. He didn't want that, And Darren was just great. Melinda was wonderful. Teddy Moore, Miss Shields, our teacher. I mean, she's still around. I talk to her quite frequently on social media, on Facebook. We send messages, and I still call her Teach.
That's nice.
But it's a combination of a lot of things. And just, Gene Shepard's writing was great. And Bob's directing for what he needed to direct was great, And he was under the gun. There are a lot of things that people don't know about the film. Like, Bob was going to start Porky's 2 right after Christmas Story. And they really put pressure on him to get Christmas Story done as soon as possible. So he's shooting Christmas Story, and 2 weeks in, he started editing as well. So he's editing the film while shooting it. So imagine putting in 12, 14, 15 hours of shooting, and then 4 or 5 hours a night of editing, and doing that 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah.
For 9, 10, 11 weeks. It used to be 11 weeks, whatever it was.
Yeah, that sounds rough. Is this and lastly here, is this the definitive Christmas movie?
Oh, coming from a nice Jewish boy like me, I don't know if I'm the one to make that call. Again, everybody kind of likes different things. I mean, Christmas Story is wonderful. People of Christmas Vacation, or people of It's a Wonderful Life. I love Elf. That's one of my favorites,
Another Peter Billingsley movie.
Well, that's a whole different story entirely. That really didn't set out to be Peter Billingsley. That was Will Ferrell, and he wanted Peter, and so he called Peter, and Peter was like, "No, not really. I don't." And Will said, "Listen, you do it for me. Whatever you need, I'll do it for you." And Pete said, "Okay." So then he got talked into Elf. Again, maybe it's age, but there's different things for everybody. I mean, I love Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. As a kid, the little, mock puppet show, from the 60s. I loved it growing up, so I still love it, But I know a lot of people, though, Christmas Story is number one. It's just, again, it's mostly age, Do we have fans that are 13, 14, 15? Absolutely, they love it. But Dad loves it, Mom loves it, Grandpa loves it, Grandma loves it, their aunts love, That's like the biggest thing with me when I go places and people, oh, listen, my dad loves this movie. Can I call him? Can you say hi?
Yeah.
It's great to have been a part of something so iconic that's an ensemble piece. There's Ralphie is really the star of the film, but it's an ensemble because you've got a whole cast of characters and everybody. To be a part of it's wonderful. Doesn't hurt my feelings to have been part of this. And I mean, the fact that people say, well, it's the Red Ryder BB gun, the leg lamp, tongue stuck on a pole. That's the three that get mixed in all the time, favorites and all that. They decided, the people outside in Hammond, Indiana, the home of Gene Shepard, they decided they're going to do a bronze statue of one of the characters from Christmas Story, and they picked me. So I have a life-size bronze statue that will outlive me and all of that, and it's at the Welcome Center in Hammond, Indiana, and they're great people, and it was fun to see it. And the guy who made it, he did Jerry Buss's statue, on his gravesite, and he did one of the Jordan ones at United Center, and he did Bobby Hill. Same guy sculpted my statue. Of course, the statue in $4 still gets me a cup of coffee and a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. It doesn't help anything, but it's just nice to have left something behind that people appreciate, and they smile and they laugh, and it brings a good memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I can't thank you enough once again for giving me your time here.
This was easy, man.
Yeah, so nothing too shocking. Like I wasn't gonna throw any like insane curveballs your way, but yeah, just getting to be able to talk to you guys from A Christmas Story, man, it's a dream come true. I love going to the house, being a part of it, watching it Christmas Eve through Christmas Day and everything.
Once we get out of the situation we're in, or it gets better, whatever you want to call it, I'll be in Parsippany, New Jersey at the Chiller Theater Show. That's every April and October. So, I mean, I'm around, people can come and say hi and find me. My social media, Scott Schwartz Actor. That's the one. You can hit the like and follow me and find out where I'm going and what's going on.
Thanks again, man. I appreciate it. And you have yourself a great rest of your night here.
Thank you, John. You too. Be well, everybody. Stay safe, okay?
Appreciate that. Thank you.